Throughout my life, I faced many challenges, but nothing hurt me as much as the betrayal of someone I loved. My youth was full of hope and dreams, but everything suddenly plunged into darkness. Betrayal I wouldn't wish on anyone. And the worst part, it came from the person I least expected, the woman I had placed at the center of my life, Marcy. Everything started with her. That was just the beginning. The wounds of the past hadn't even healed when a new story began. This story came with a fortune, but at the time I had no idea what it truly meant. Everything changed in a single night when I started university. Everything was going great when I met Marcy at the University of Michigan. I can say it was love at first sight. I made it clear that I liked her on the first day, and luckily, she wasn't indifferent to me either. Before long, we became inseparable. We shared so much that I was certain I wanted to spend the rest of my life with her. That's why I proposed to her on Christmas Eve, and we started planning our wedding for after graduation. At first, everything was on track. As spring break approached, Marcy's friends wanted to go to Florida, and she decided to join them. I, on the other hand, had to work and couldn't take time off to go with her. But I trusted her. However, when Marcy returned from the trip, I felt that something had changed. She started making plans with me, but would cancel them at the last minute. Rumors began to reach my ears. They said Marcy partied non-stop during spring break, spending each night with a different guy. At first, I didn't want to believe these rumors, but then that damned Saturday night came. There was a big party at Stella Hansen's house, but I had to work. I told Marcy I couldn't take her, and she said she wouldn't go without me. While I was at work, two guys I knew came into the restaurant. Harry Short was surprised to see me there. I saw Marcy at Stella's. I thought you must be there too, Dad. Something inside me broke. I immediately left work and headed to Stella's house. When I opened the door, I saw Marcy walking up the stairs, hand in hand with another guy. My heart stopped. Followed them, easily guessing which room they would enter. I stood outside the door and opened it. What I saw was beyond my worst fears. Marcy was lying in his arms, her eyes closed. I quietly approached her and whispered, "Marcy, baby, open your eyes and be surprised." When she opened her eyes and saw me, her face turned pale. "Keep the ring, Marcy," I said coldly, turning to leave. As I walked down the stairs, I saw Nancy Newbert, one of the girls who had gone to Florida with Marcy. I walked up to her and said, "Thanks for convincing Marcy to go on spring break. If she had stayed here, I would have never known she was a cheater," and I left the party. In the days that followed, Marcy tried to win me back. One day, when I finished work, I found her sitting on the fender of my car. "We need to talk, Rob," I said. "I've already heard everything I want to hear, Marcy." But she didn't give up. "That guy isn't my new boyfriend," I said. "You're the man of my life, Rob." Marcy started telling me about what had happened during spring break. She had been with other men. "I was just curious, Rob. I never stopped loving you, but that curiosity led me to this point," she said. I couldn't believe her. How could she expect me to accept this? "I want you to tell me it doesn't matter," she said. "Doesn't matter? Are you out of your mind?" "Of course it matters." I exploded. "The time to satisfy that curiosity is before you take your wedding vows," I said firmly. As the argument escalated, I made it clear that there was no coming back from it. The trust was broken beyond repair. The pain of betrayal deepened with each passing day. I tried to focus on my work, but Marcy's actions kept haunting me. I had truly loved her, but I knew I could never trust her again. I threw myself into my work, giving everything I had to be successful. The money from the inheritance allowed me to start my own business and achieve success. One night after work, I was confiding in my friend Mike. Mike handed me a business card. "This won't solve all your problems," he said, "but it might help you relax a little. Premier Escorts, discreet, professional, and no strings attached." At first, the idea seemed strange to me, but as the days passed, I started warming up to the concept. The idea of companionship without emotional attachment. Eventually, I decided to make the call. I met a woman named Ellen. When we first met, I was struck by how beautiful and elegant she was. We spent the evening together, and my admiration for her grew with each passing day. As time went on, I started seeing Ellen more frequently. Time we spent together helped me advance in the business world. I offered her a full-time position as my assistant with the added benefit of living at my home. Ellen accepted, but as time passed, things began to get complicated. One night after we returned from a charity gala, the tension between us reached its peak. That night, after a few drinks, the emotions that had been simmering within me became uncontrollable, and the fine line between us was crossed. In a moment of weakness, we were drawn to each other and ended up in the same bed. The next morning, I woke up feeling overwhelmed with conflicting emotions. Unlike me, Ellen didn't seem fazed by the situation. Over breakfast, she calmly said, "Nothing has to change if you don't want it to. We're both adults. We can keep things professional." But deep down, I knew everything had already changed. One day I found out that Ellen was working on completing her university degree. I offered to pay for her tuition and give her more time off, focus on her studies. Ellen was touched by the gesture, but it also triggered something inside her. The distance between us began to grow. She started spending more time at school and less time with me. Eventually, I had to confront her about it, but the answer I received shattered my world once again. "I don't want to lose the freedom I've earned, Rob," she told me. "I care about you, but I'm not ready for the kind of commitment you're looking for." Her words ripped open the wounds I had been trying to heal since Marcy's betrayal. "I understand," I said coldly, even as my heart broke. "You should move out, Ellen. I'll honor our contract, but I think it's best if we keep things strictly professional from now on." As I watched Ellen pack her things and leave, familiar emptiness settled over me. Once again, someone I loved was walking away. After Ellen left, I started feeling even more alone. The office Christmas party was approaching, and Ellen had always been by my side at these events. I didn't want to go without her, but as the owner of the company, I knew I had to attend. That night, I forced myself to show up at the party. Chatted with employees, handed out bonus checks, and even managed to crack a few jokes. Just as I was thinking of leaving early, my secretary Mona handed me a small gift. "This came for you," she said with a mysterious smile. "You might want to open it in private." Curious, I opened the box and found a hotel room key for room 412, where the party was being held. My heart began to race, and I headed toward room 412. I slid the key into the lock, and the sight that greeted me took my breath away. The room was decorated for Christmas, and Ellen was sitting on the bed, her eyes shining. Couldn't believe it. Ellen had come back for me. "What does this mean?" I asked, still cautious. "It means I'm ready to commit to you completely," she said. "You still want me, Rob?" "There's nothing I want more than to be with you, Ellen," I said as I hugged her tightly. At that moment, all my losses, all my pain, everything made sense. On Christmas morning, we woke up together. I turned to her with a smile and said, "I think we should start planning a wedding." Ellen nodded and said, "Yes." Finally, I felt like everything in my life had fallen into place. All the pain, all the betrayals, they all led me to this moment. This time I know everything will be different.